Many women are functioning, but they don't actually feel like themselves anymore. And I, for one, was one of them. You still show up, you still perform, you still carry on the responsibilities that you have to from day to day, and you show up, but inside you're feeling exhausted, emotionally disconnected, maybe you're even numb. You feel overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is like the big, whew, life just keeps coming at you. Maybe your emotions are just blunted. You feel kind of flat. You don't feel anything. That kind of goes with the numbness feeling. Or maybe you're restless. That can kind of lead to this squirrel brain feeling like you're never able to completely finish anything that you want to do because you just feel like you're just, and you don't know how to calm yourself. You don't know how to sit. You don't know how to rest. You might be productive, but you're not peaceful. And maybe you feel capable, like you're still showing up, you're still capable of doing the work that you're supposed to do, but inside you just feel depleted. I think a lot of women quietly feel this way right now. I was one of them, and I have spoken to several women that I know personally in my world, my circle of friends and acquaintances that feel exactly like this. It resonates. It's really common, especially in women, because we tend to be caretakers, right? We might be married. We were married first, and we learned to take care of our house and our marriage and our spouse. And then we started having children. And the more children you have, the more caregiving. And if you're like my age or in this sandwich generation where now I have an elderly mother, there's a lot of caretaking that has to go on with my showing up to help her when she needs it. Then, if you're leaders, like I have been a leader in many different capacities, whether it's at work, in the hospital system, I was a leader. In my own business as an entrepreneur, I am the leader, I am the boss. And then in ministry, I've led many, many ministries. I had a ministry that I ran with my husband at the time. So we tend to be very high capacity women. And so this is really not an uncommon thing. And we are used to taking care of others. We are used to taking care of other things and other responsibilities. And so we're used to being the strong one. We're used to being the one that gets it done. We just have to get it done. And so we learn how to survive because what else are we going to do, right? We can't just like crawl into bed and never come out because that doesn't serve anybody ourselves. And so we learn to be very responsible early on in life. And birth order actually plays a role in it too. I read a book a long time ago by Dr. Kevin Leman, and he talked about the birth order personalities, the character traits that happen. It's not like a finality. It doesn't have to be this way, but many, many times because of your order of where you were born, you tend to show up a certain way and have a certain personality because of the expectations. Firstborn children like me tend to be very responsible. We learn to get it done very early in life. In kindergarten, I had on my report card, I still have it, has outstanding leadership capabilities. I was 4.5. Somehow I showed up that way, maybe because I was bossy. I don't know. But that I learned how to do that at a very young age. And so I know how to perform. Women know how to perform. We know how to carry others and we know how to keep things going. We have to, especially if we have households and people are relying on us. We have to keep things going. But we often never learn how to stay connected with ourselves in the process, right? We just, overgive or give so much to other people that somehow little, and it's not like a one day we wake up and stop taking care of ourselves. It's a slow glide. It's a slippery glide that we kind of like give a little less of our more of ourselves and think of it a little bit less about ourselves. And it's more than just stress, right? It actually affects our nervous system. And so stress affects the nervous system, but so does the mindset that comes along with the subtle messages that we speak to ourselves. And our nervous system eventually gets chronically overloaded. And when it's constantly receiving input without time to reset and restore itself, then we literally learn how to live in this survival mode And it goes on such a long time that it begins to affect our body. So our body is, we have this internal contradiction. So the body's saying one thing, the brain is saying one thing, our responsibilities demand another thing. And so then we end up over functioning, and that becomes the normal, right? The For me, I was a single mom with 5 kids, working night shift in an ICU setting. Like, it was crazy how over functioning I was, and how that was just my norm. And then we start to lose a sense of rhythm. I shared yesterday balance, or shared last week, balance is not even a word in the Bible. It's more about rhythms. And so we lose that sense of rhythm, and then we get disconnected. We get disconnected. We stop listening to our body signals. We stop listening to the emotional things that we're feeling. We start sequestering and pushing down our desires. We might get up earlier and go to bed later. And so the time for sleep and restoration gets shorter. Maybe we don't take time throughout the day to rest. Maybe we don't take a day of rest. Like the Bible teaches, we are to have a Sabbath day, a rest. Even God rested when he created the heavens and the earth. And then we often lose our sense of creativity. Now, creativity can be different for everybody. It could just be you like to knit, you like to paint, could be you like to garden. There's Creativity can come in many forms. For me, it was I love to paint, but I haven't painted. My easel sits over here in the corner and it's just lonely. And music, I moved into my house in December, and it's May, and I played the piano once. And then I realized I need to do that. That feeds my soul. So you lose that sense of touch with the creative parts of who you are. And at some point, we stop living from alignment and we begin living from obligation. Raise my hand really high. That was me, right? So when being strong stops working, it's because strength isn't the problem. And capability is definitely not the problem. I'm very strong. I'm very capable at many, many things. And so are a lot of the women that I know. The issue is not being strong. It's not the fact that you're not strong or you're not capable. It's more that you're constantly overriding those little signals that you get from yourself. You're constantly pushing through exhaustion. You're ignoring what the body is trying to tell you, and you never allow yourself time to fully recover from life. Competency often hides depletion because like I said, we got to get it done, and we do it well, and we just keep overriding what we feel, and competency can really hide that because we're so good at it for such a long time. We appear fine externally. I remember sitting in my coaching master circle a couple months ago and sharing, it was my turn to share my opportunity challenge. And I shared all the things that had happened, the things that I've shared here. That in the last year, I had to sell my house and move into an Airbnb, and I was living there for a long time, 9 months. I had a very sudden, profound knee injury. I separated from my husband. I bought a house and moved into the house in the middle of winter. And I kept showing up for my patients. I never stopped working. And nobody at the board table that day in that conference room knew that any of that was going on because I didn't share it. I just kept doing what I needed to do. So everything on the outside looks fine. But on the inside, we feel exhausted, we feel fragmented, we feel emotionally disconnected. And strength without rhythm eventually leads to self-abandonment. This is the message that I heard from Holy Spirit in the fall. Teresa, if you don't love yourself first, then you're not going to be able to continue going on. You have to love yourself first. You have to take care of yourself first. And up until that point, I was have been doing a much, much better job over the last years before, a couple years before that. But things really came to a heightened awareness in the fall when I heard that little still small voice tell me that. And I was like, oh, I just got the picture I travel a lot. So I got the picture of the oxygen mask falling down from the ceiling in the airplane. And what they always tell you, put your oxygen mask on first. And I thought, okay, I need to do this for myself and I really need to take this seriously. So, alignment isn't about perfection. Alignment is about coming into this internal agreement with yourself and living from a place and in a way that does not constantly violate yourself. I had to start looking at what are my values? What do I believe? Who am I? What's my identity? And how can I hold myself accountable and true to who I truly am and what I truly value and what is so important to me? So, body, mind, spirit, they start moving together. Like I started to recreate my world so that my world on the outside and the things that I do align up with the things that I feel inside so that I don't have this disjointedness and I don't have this disconnectedness. A sustainable rhythm, like I shared, that I've created this sacred blueprint where I realigned my calendar on a weekly basis and on a daily basis so that I can have this sustainability and the rhythm of my life instead of just having these survival cycles, right? Peace comes when there's the internal pressure, the pressure valve, like on a pressure cooker, the pressure valve is relieved of some of that pressure, and then peace can start to be restored. It's identity based living, like I said, rather than living from a place of obligation. And when I really looked at who I was and what I really believed about myself, then I realized that I was losing myself and I started to reconnect with myself, reconnect with my body, start paying attention to the things that the little, signals and voices that my mind, my emotions, my body was telling me. I started listening to God and His voice, really quieting myself so I could hear His voice and just kind of hushed all the external distractions. I started living from a place of peace and I really started to get clarity. It really began to be really clear to me what I needed to do to change things in my life, in my business, in my relationships, and things started to fall into place. I'm not saying it's perfect, but life feels so much more in a nice rhythm now. And I feel so much more in touch with who I truly am and what God created me to be. We're not designed to live from a place of chronic exhaustion. Think about, I know life was different even 100 years ago, back in the garden when God created. He gave Adam and Eve everything that they needed. And do you think that they were stressed out? I don't think so. Even though they had to go pick their food and things like that. And then later we learned how to kill animals and things like that, fish and all that. They were not stressed like we are stressed. And life was not about rushing from one appointment to the next all day long. It was about living with the seasons and the time of day and just resting in that place of knowing where they were and how to relate to the world and the environment around them. Chronic and constant depletion is just not normal. And internal fragmentation, absolutely not the goal. We want to be in alignment. I believe we were designed to live from a place of wholeness and alignment. And peace and rest is not a sign of weakness, it's actually a sign of strength. Rhythm is not laziness. I just use the example of people living even 100 years ago. They weren't lazy by any means. They had to go and till the land and catch their food, but they knew how to take rest. They knew how to rest at the end of the day, rest on the weekends. They knew how to rest. And alignment is definitely not about being selfish. Loving yourself first is not selfish. It's not this self-focused kind of navel gazing, kind of I'm the center of my whole universe kind of thing. It's actually, we are told in the Bible, isn't our temple, isn't our body the temple of the living God? And we're to care for it just like we would care for our house. We don't let our house fall into disarray. We don't, when we have pets, we take care of our pets. We have to eat and survive to nourish our bodies. And so alignment is not selfishness. It's self-care and it's self-love and it allows the body to heal. And maybe that healing doesn't take place like we're used to popping an aspirin when we get a headache, when sometimes true, genuine healing is not a McDonald's style drive up through the drive-through and get your food. Healing can be slower, it can be more quiet, it can be more grounded. And wholeness really truly believes with self-awareness. It begins with self-awareness. So I am going to be really expounding on along a lot of this and these concepts over the next several months. We're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about the nervous system. We're going to talk about identity and emotional healing, boundaries and rhythms. I'll even talk about hormones. I'm a nurse practitioner and I have hormones just like everybody else. And we're going to talk about restoration and alignment, and most especially coming back to yourself. This is a conversation I really think that many women are really longing to have, and maybe you're not brave enough to because you feel like you're the only one. And isn't that a trick of the enemy where he makes us feel like we're the only one, no matter what the situation is? Nobody else feels this way. Of course they do. We just don't talk about it, so we don't know because we haven't had the strength and the courage to share our part in our struggle with other people because we just feel like nobody else is where I am. And that's just not the truth. So if you've been feeling disconnected from yourself, if you've been feeling like you're just not completely whole anymore and you've lost yourself, you're not broken and you're not failing. And you're probably just simply out of alignment with who you are and who you were created to be. And so I would invite you, first of all, to just become aware. Just become aware of the place that you are. Give yourself grace, love yourself enough to realize, yeah, this is where I'm at. And I have an alignment check you can download. I'll put the link below. It'll just be some questions that you can ask yourself. And it's not really a scorecard or anything. It's just if this resonates, or if anything in this message, this teaching that I just did, if it resonates with you, then I invite you to check out more on my website, teresagreco.com, and come and just continue the journey here with me as we begin to unfold what it looks like to be a woman who lives in alignment with herself and who God created her to be. So I hope that this blessed you today, and I will see you next week.